Hi everyone. How are you today? I'm looking at my screen and I see all of this mail and notifications popping up. I apologize for giggling at the beginning of this broadcast. I am Nell and welcome to my channel. This is Simply Nell. Thank you so much for tuning in today. How are you doing? I'm sitting in my tiny studio. I'm kind of unorganized here because I'm in the middle of maybe 4 different projects, and I have yarn everywhere, and my lighting was tangled in some yarn, and I got mad at myself. All kind of things happen in my tiny studio. My lamp is it's a little I have some issues with my lighting, so I just said, I'll get to it when I get to it, because you shouldn't really sweat the little things, right? How are you doing? I hope that you so far have had a really great week. I've had a decent week. I've been in pain because I have arthritis in my feet, and so when it rains or it gets a little chilly or whatnot, then I can tell because my feet begins to give me problems. I haven't gone to the doctor yet to get on any type of medication for arthritis, and I'm kind of not feeling that right now. I feel that with some of the things that I'm doing that maybe it will alleviate the pain, but my little home remedies is not working out that well. I'll be the first to admit it, so I'm going to go ahead and see the doctor and maybe get on something for my arthritis, because it can get pretty bad, and this time it was pretty bad and it lasted for almost a week. And today I'm feeling pretty good. I feel some relief. I'm not hopping around, I'm not using my cane, so I'm really happy about that. So what can you do? You just get up and you move on with your day, and you just try to make the best of it, because that's all you're given. You're only given the moment in which you stand in, and the moment that I am standing in right now is a moment that I'm standing with you. I am just hanging out in my tiny studio, as I said, and today's video is going to be about what? Dreadlocks, locking the hair. And this is about here, well, as I said before, this is my 20th year as a dreadlocknista, as a dreadhead diva. And this video is about what started me on the journey of dreadlocks, and how you should, if you're getting started, or if you're considering wearing or locking your hair, or you're considering wearing dreads. This is just maybe some information that'll help you to make that decision. Now, when I got started locking my hair, it was the year 2002. And I started locking my hair not because it was a trend or because it was the latest and greatest hairstyle for Black women. No, that wasn't it at all. In fact, locking my hair symbolized rebellion to a certain extent. And in a way, it was one of the first steps I took to remove myself from certain entities that I did not agree with. So in many ways, locking my hair was my outward display of rebellion, and my outward display of the inner going ons that was happening within me as a woman. So I was beginning to become who it is that I became, if that makes sense to you. I think I was 34 years old when I started locking my hair. It's been about 20 years. So yes, I was 34, and I was ready. Now, I loved the idea of locking my hair, of dreading my hair, and I had always been interested in this style since the first time I saw Bob Marley on television or on my dad's album cover. I was always intrigued by the idea of just letting your hair do what it does. Locking or dreading hair has its foundations in many different cultures, but as a black woman, for me, the locking of hair became really significant when I realized that the kings and queens of ancient Kemet or Egypt locked their hair. When I realized that there were certain tribes in Africa, the motherland, that locked their hair. That's when I began to understand that dreading my hair or locking my hair for me will be much more significant and will hold more significance as opposed to being just a hairstyle. That's when I knew that locking my hair will begin a spiritual journey. Now, for many people who lock their hair, it is connected to the spiritual journey of Rastafarians, which is what Bob Marley was. He was a Rastafarian, a Rasta man. And when you see people of African descent wearing dreadlocks, the first thing that comes to one's mind is that they are of the spiritual journey of Rastafarianism. And before I began to lock my hair, I did a lot of research on Rastafarianism, and at one point I considered myself to be Rastafari or a Rasta woman. However, as I continued on my spiritual journey, I realized that no, I'm not a Rasta woman. I'm not on the Rasta journey. I do praise Jah, and I do think he is the king. The king. However, that's not my spiritual journey. However, that's not my spiritual journey. But I celebrate it. And I have nothing but respect for Rastafarianism. Nothing but respect for that belief system. And it's still one of the reasons why I respect and I honor Rastafarianism, because it brought to us the belief system of another way to look at Christianity. That's most important. And the other reason is because it allowed us as Black people to see ourselves and express ourselves in a totally different way spiritually. So as I began to open my mind and expand on what I believed in, I began to tear away from some of the things that I believed in. And it's a process, and I'm still going through it. However, deciding to go ahead and lock my hair, it was like, as I said before, it was the outward expression of what was going on inside of me. And I think people saw that. I think people saw that I was going a little bit in my own direction and away from the conformity of which I was a part of. And I started moving away from that and really looking to be my own Tracy, my own person. Beginning to express myself as who I believed myself to be and as a Black woman. And doing so, it led to so many different problems and situations, but it was an awakening for me. And this one thing about wearing dreadlocks that you have to understand: if you don't have a thick skin, or if you are not confident in your convictions and in your reasonings for locking your hair, then all of the naysayers, which could be your own friends and family, all of the hate and the crazy questions that you get, the pointing of fingers, the criticism and the judgment. If you don't have the courage of your convictions before you start wearing dreadlocks, you're not going to last on this path. You're just not going to last, because you're either going to sink or you're going to swim. So when I started, my mentality was very strong. I knew what I wanted, because this was not something that I had, this was not an overnight decision. This was maybe 20 years in the making for me to, you know, dread my hair. And as I said, it was more like a spiritual journey for me. And for most, it is a spiritual journey. When I began in 2002, it wasn't considered a hairstyle. It was considered, dreading your hair was considered a lifestyle. And a lot of the people that I had come in contact with who dreaded their hair, they were either into African spiritualism, they were Rastafari, or they were what we call today woke. They were brothers and sisters who, you know, who were very enlightened about African studies, Pan-Africanism. They were all in these groupings of organizations that I became a part of that studied classical African civilizations. And they wore their hair in these natural Afrikan styles. And as I became more immersed in Afrikan studies and really became aware of myself as a Black woman, dreading my hair became, you know, the next step to my actualization and my presentation as a Black woman living in America. So, as I said, for many, locking your hair is a spiritual journey. It's not a hairstyle, it's a lifestyle. So when you decide to dread your hair, to lock your hair, ask yourself this question: why am I doing it? Am I doing it because it's just a hairstyle? Or am I doing it because this is part of my journey? This is who I see myself. This is what I am committed. This is a lifestyle that I am committed to living for at least the next 4 or 5 years. And I say that because there are people who are only committed to wearing it to see how far they can get, see how far their hair will grow, and how long it will become by dreading their hair. But for me, this was a lifetime commitment. This wasn't something that I was committed to wearing for 2, 3, 4 years, 5 years at the maximum. This was a lifetime commitment that I made, and I'm 20 years dreaded. I am a 20-year veteran of wearing, you know, being a dreadlocknista. So as you see, I am fully committed to this journey. Now, have there been moments within this journey where I have been frustrated and irritated and just downright depressed about the nature of my locks? Of course. Of course. You know, especially in the beginning when I was starting, because I started with about 1.5 inches of hair. And so in the beginning, you know, it looked funny. I have a funny shaped head, so it looked kind of funny on me. But I soldiered on, you know, I soldiered on. And it's like I cannot explain to you how wearing dreads for all these years, I cannot really fully explain to you how it has felt to be on this journey. when I say it's a spiritual journey, it is a spiritual journey for me and for many others who have decided to allow our hair to become, to do what it does, to do what the universe has deigned it to do. And as your hair begins to lock, it's you have to, it's a growing process, I want to say. And why I say it's a growing process, because when I first started, I started with maybe 1.5 inches of hair, and I had to get used to to having these tiny little shrimp like locks of hair on the top of my head. My children call them little worms because they were shaped like little worms. I call them little shrimps because they were tiny. And as they began to grow, I began to become reacquainted with my hair. I became reacquainted with the texture of my hair. I became reacquainted with just everything about my hair. And I had to stop comparing my hair to other people. And when you begin the road of dreading and locking your hair, that's one thing you have to let go of. You have to let go of comparing your journey with someone else's journey, because our hair is as unique as our fingertips. So we cannot compare. I can't compare my locks to someone else's locks. I can't compare my locks to Bob Marley's locks. You can't compare your locks to my locks, because we each have different hair patterns and textures. So the beauty of this lifestyle is becoming, or being in tune with who you are as a god, who you are as a goddess, and being okay with that. Being okay with your pattern, being okay with your path. And that's why I say, for me, wearing dreadlocks is a spiritual journey. You know, before I actually started locking my hair, I had dreams of myself with dreadlocks. I actually dreamed of myself wearing locks. And for me, that was a spiritual vision. That was a vision of who I was to become. And when I saw myself with locks, I looked like this. When I, you know, and it's so funny because when I think back on it, and it's just amazing how the universe works. When I look back on it and I think about that dream, here I am. Here I am. I am what I dreamed. And if you are a person who believes in the power of dreams, then you know what was going on was that my dream was my reality. And what I needed to do was to bring that reality to my conscious state. And actually, as you see, that is what I did. And I went up against a lot. It was difficult to, you know, at that time period, to be, you know, a black woman with dreadlocks. I mean, it wasn't like I was hanging out with my my Afrikan studies family all the time, because I was not, and I will only get to see them, you know, maybe once or twice a year at conferences. So I didn't have that type of support every day. And it wasn't like, even though I had access to my best friend's auntie, who has the most beautiful locks. Did I tell you guys about that? My best friend Nicole, her auntie Jendaye, her locks were just gorgeous. They were so long, they went down to her feet. And it wasn't like I was, you know, able to sit back and have daily conversations with my best friend's auntie. No. And when I did get to see her and talk to her about her locks, that was very encouraging and very supporting. You know, that made me feel good to, you know, to see her do her thing. And when social media became available, it was even better to see Jendai on Facebook and see her with her beautiful, gorgeous, just simply gorgeous dreadlocks. And that was very, you know, that was very encouraging for me. However, when I started, there weren't any Facebook support groups. There wasn't any YouTube tutorials. This was just something that I had to be committed to, and I had to move forward with the information that I had, and any other information that I gleaned thereof that was in line with or supportive of me on this journey. I just went ahead and I listened to the advice and I used it, and I made mistakes. I made mistakes, but you know, I just kept moving forward, because that's what you have to do when you get advice. You just have to move forward and do the best that you can. So with my locks, and this is why I say often that locking your hair is not a hairstyle. It's a lifestyle. Because for me, it was more so of a spiritual awakening. It was more so me coming into my own as a Black woman, as an adult Black woman, as a Black mother, to be on this journey of the spiritual journey of dreading my hair. It meant that I grew as a Black woman, but it also meant it gave my sons the opportunity to embrace and celebrate Black women who wear their hair in natural styles, who are happy and satisfied and content with their choice of walking a natural path. It allowed my sons to get a healthy perspective of Black women and hair. What do I mean? What I'm saying is that I don't believe that my sons, who are now grown, who are adult men, I don't think that they discriminate between women based on their hairstyles, but they are more appreciative of women who decide to wear their hair naturally, is what I'm saying. And they learned that concept from their mother. My daughters, the same way. My youngest daughter, she wears dreads now. I started her on the dread path. She had to be a young, and probably around 3 or 4, I began to lock her hair. And then when she was around 7, I took her hair down. And later on, when she became 13, 12, 13, 14, she began to say that she want to wear natural hairstyles again. And so we began the process of getting her ready to have her hair dreaded or locked. And she started wearing a natural. She started wearing an afro. Can you believe it? My 12-year-old, 13-year-old daughter had an afro. She did. But that was my way of preparing her for a lifestyle of being a naturalista. And she did really well with the afro. She looked really, really good. I had to give it up to her. She wore that afro. And so locking her hair was the next step. And I try to make sure that I compliment her and I support her on her journey, that I am always a wealth of information, and I also I help her to wear her locks with a sense of pride, being the African princess that she is. I want her to have pride. Now, she's never come to me and said anything to me about people saying things about her hair or making fun of her locks. There's never been an issue with that, and so I am blessed in that area, and so is she. And we are what people call freeformers, which means with freeform, we don't retwist our hair often. We may retwist it once or twice a year, and we just let our hair grow. And people think that with freeform, and I'm going to do a video on freeform locks, but people think that with freeform locks that, you know, we just don't care about our hair and that we just let it do whatever, and, you know, it's filthy and nasty. But that's not what freeform locks or dreads are, and I'm going to do a video on that later. But she is enjoying her journey, and I'm happy for her, and I'm really excited that she has stuck with it at such a young age. And I'm guessing it's because of me, because of her mom, that she is able to celebrate and honor her own blackness, and that in this age where everyone is wearing a weave, everyone is wearing a weave, everyone is wearing some type of extension or some type of wig, for her to be natural and embrace her natural hair texture and her natural beauty in this day and age is beyond commendable. It's just, I mean, I have to give it up to her. It's honorable, and I respect her at such a young age for making such a choice for herself. However, back to the subject, is wearing dreadlocks a spiritual journey? To many it is. And when I say spiritual, what do I mean? It's about honoring the divine in you, honoring the divine of the universe. When you look at the briefs, the artistic briefs on the walls of the pyramids in ancient Kemet, ancient Egypt, and you see the pride that the ancient Egyptians and Nubians that they had, and how they demonstrated that pride that they had, how they are pictured in the temples, going through religious practices and religious celebrations and whatnot, and you see how they are dressed, and you see the symbols that they use to worship the universe and to worship the sun and different things of that nature. When you see that, and then you notice their hair, and you notice how beautiful their locks are upon their shoulders. When I see things like that, I think of the journey of locking, the spiritual journey of locking my hair. And for me, it's everything. Everything. So thank you so much for tuning in to this week's episode of Simply Nail, as I talk about my 20-year lock journey. And I am wishing you a healthy, happy journey if you decide to embark on one. And if you have any comments or questions, please drop down in the comments section and leave me a question, and I will address it. And make sure you like this video and share with those who are thinking about going on the same journey that you want to go on, or the same journey that I am on, and that is the journey of locking your hair. Thank you so much. This is Nail. I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.